Hey guys, it's Vicky, and today I'm here to share with you a book tag. This is the Horror Booktube Tag, and it was created by Alex over at Hey Little Thrifter, and I was tagged by Sean over at Eclectic Reads to do this tag. So thank you to Sean for that, and thank you to Alex for creating this tag, because it's really fun. I love horror, and yeah, I'm excited to answer these questions. Question 1 is, how and when did you get into horror? And for me, horror definitely started with movies. When I was very young, probably too young, I was exposed to some scary stuff, and I just fell in love with it though. I have a distinct memory of watching Child's Play when I was probably 5 or 6. And I remember even at that age not being scared of that movie, because I was like, it's like a little doll. I'm like, if he comes after me, I'll punch him in the face. Or I'll kick him across the room. I just thought it was ridiculous. And I still am not a huge fan of the Child's Play movies, I'm not gonna lie. Chucky is just not my fave. But I have a memory of watching that at a very young age. I also loved the movie Gremlins, which I don't know if that's technically a horror movie, but I just loved that movie. And there was one part in particular, this might be spoilery for those of you that have not seen Gremlins, but oh well. There's a scene in that movie where a gremlin jumps out of a Christmas tree at somebody, and for that scene I always had to leave the room because it just it's a big jump scare, and it would freak me out. So then that would pass, and then I would come back and watch the rest of the movie. But I loved that movie. And then probably my favorite is Nightmare on Elm Street. I loved Freddy Krueger. I still do. I just love Freddy Krueger. He has that way about him where he's scary, but he's also hilarious. And fun note, the college that I went to, Oakland University here in Michigan, Robert Englund, who plays Freddy Krueger, also went there. He's the one famous person that went to the college that I went to. So I love those movies. I love the Evil Dead movies, again, because they're funny and creepy. And just great. Gosh, I watched a lot of movies as a kid, because my mom she was one of those people who would record everything off of the TV. So we had HBO when I was a kid, and so my mom would record movies off of HBO. And I remember there's this tape that I always watched that had Children of the Corn, A Nightmare on Elm Street, and Friday the 13th. I think it was 4 or 5, which I never really watched that one that much, because again, I'm not a huge Friday the 13th fan either, but I would watched Children of the Corn and Freddy, and I just loved them. So yeah, definitely started with movies for me. I didn't really get into horror books until later. Question 2 is, what was the first horror book that you read? And I can't think of one specifically, but when I was in elementary school, probably 4th, 5th grade, I started reading Goosebumps books, became obsessed with the Goosebumps books, and the Fear Street books also. Going into middle school, I loved Fear Street. Gosh, those were so good. Just the nostalgia is just there for those. And then I started reading Stephen King in 6th grade. So I can't remember a specific book that was my first, but definitely it was probably a Goosebumps book. Question 3 is, what horror-related goodness can we expect from your channel? And I know that lately on my channel I haven't been reading a ton of horror. I've just been into reading other things at the moment, but I'm hoping to definitely get into some more horror, especially next month. I have a couple buddy reads planned that are good horror buddy reads that are going to be really fun. Then as far as plans for my channel, I have a couple of ideas for some series that I want to do here, but I don't want to go into too much detail because that would ruin the surprise. But let's just say I'm looking into revisiting some of my favorite horror reads from, that I've read throughout my life, and kind of revisiting them. Let's just say that. We'll just say that. Question 4, do you have any favorite themes or subgenres within horror? Absolutely. I love possession stories. There's just something about possession. I've said this a number of times here on my channel, but there's something about possession stories that just gets to me. The idea that you're not in control of your body, that this foreign being or whatever you want to call it is invading your body and you can't control what happens to you. To me, that's just really freaky. I also just love good old-fashioned like ghost stories, haunted house stories. Mostly it's like supernatural stuff that I really love. Though I don't mind like the slasher stuff, like this, you know, stalker killer type stuff is good too, but for me it's the supernatural stuff. Anything that gets like my imagination going is a good one for me. Question 5, name an underrated horror novel or author. For this I would say Michael McDowell. I just recently read him in the last couple of years, and I've only read 2 of his books, but I definitely want to read everything else because I just loved both of the books that I read by him. I read The Elementals and Cold Moon Over Babylon and loved them both. I thought they were great stories, had some great horror elements, just great writing, great characters, the whole package, and he's not very well known. His books are hard to get a hold of. I know, like, for me, my library has none of them. So I probably have to buy them all, but that's okay. I don't mind because, like I said, he's a great author. And I can't wait to read all of his other things. He doesn't have too much, and he passed away, gosh, I want to say it was like 20 years ago. So, I mean, I'll catch up eventually, and then that'll be sad because then what will I do? Okay, question 6 is to name an overrated horror novel or author. And you know, I don't really have one because all of the horror that I have read, I think that all of the authors have merit and I really enjoy them. Yeah, I was trying to think of an answer for this and I just really can't think of one that I think isn't, or there's an author that has gotten recognition and didn't deserve it. So I don't know, when I come up with one sometime, I'll get back to you and let you know. Question 7 is to recommend 3 of your favorite horror novels. Okay, first I have to go with a Stephen King book. Come on. And I'm gonna say The Stand. Especially right now, if you are looking to read The Stand, the summertime is the best time to read it because a huge chunk of the book takes place in the summertime. And it's just a great book. Has some creepy elements. Yeah. It's just an epic story, and I love it. Another one, like I mentioned, I'm going to say The Elementals by Michael McDowell. That book, to me, was so atmospheric, so gothic, and there's just something about the setting that just made it so unique to me. And just the whole story in general, and the way that the characters interacted and everything. It's a fantastic book. And I'm so glad that I discovered it. And then the third one, I will say Nosferatu by Joe Hill. It's another one that it caught me by surprise. I had read a couple of Joe Hill books before that one, and I thought he was good, you know, okay, yeah. And then that book like it just blew me away. The story is so complex and just so unique and different, and definitely has some creepy moments, and yeah, I love that one. Question 8 is to recommend a book for someone who is new to the horror genre. For that, I usually tend to recommend a Stephen King book only because he's so mainstream. People tend to know who he is and want to try something. So for that, I would probably say, and I feel like I recommend this one all the time, I would probably recommend Salem's Lot, because it's a classic kind of vampire story that I think anyone getting into horror would like. Gosh, sorry if there's a lot of background noise. My daughter has a friend over and they're playing in the basement and they're being super loud, guys. Sorry. They're breaking my train of thought here. Another book that I would recommend to horror newbies is probably My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. It has a lot of like that nostalgia kind of coming of age type of stuff mixed with these horror elements. So it's very much a story about like friendship and everything, but has that possession kind of aspect to it, which I really loved, and it was a really fun read. Yeah, love that one. Question number 9 is, are there any book to film adaptations that you particularly loved or hated? Let me think here. Film adaptations that I loved or hated. Okay. One that I thought was done really well is the original Pet Sematary movie. I have not seen the remake, so I can't speak to that one, but I thought the original Pet Sematary was done pretty well. Had some great special effects. It had some great horror elements. I mean, obviously they changed a few things, cut some things, but there are scenes from that film that still like kind of freak me out. So I definitely think that that's a good one. Probably the best book to film adaptation that I've ever seen is probably The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty. It's, I mean, a classic horror movie, and basically they adapted the movie from the book like to a T. They didn't really change much at all, and that's just a fantastic movie too. Just the effects in that movie. I know kind of now people have gotten a little desensitized to it, but nothing can like replace the like almost hysteria that movie caused back in the 70s when it came out. It terrified people. And I first saw it when I was 13, and I was watching it with a friend. She was staying the night at my house, and she was freaking out. And I'm not gonna lie, there were parts that freaked me out too. Just the way that the makeup is done, the way Linda Blair looked, it still like gives me like when I think about it. So yeah, The Exorcist is probably the best film adaptation, horror-wise, I have ever seen. Question 10 is, how do you discover new or new to you horror books? Booktube. I hear so many great reviews. That's how I first heard of Michael McDowell. A lot of the indie authors and stuff I hear from other booktubers. I know like Rachel at the Shades of Orange, Stephanie, that's what she read, Alex at Hey Little Thrifter. They read a lot of horror. I get a lot of great recommendations just from watching their videos. And then I see here and there on Instagram, I see some too, but I would say mostly there's like this little niche of booktubers that I've discovered that really cover the horror genre, and they really have great recommendations. Question 11 is, what was the last horror book that you bought? I have to think about this. I want to say the last haul that I did was when I went to a library sale, I bought The Ruins. Who wrote The Ruins? Scott Smith? Is that the author? I can't remember. Sorry, but The Ruins, I think, was the last one I bought. I bought it at a library sale, and I'm actually planning on reading it next month. So I'm really excited about that. So question 12 is, what horror book is at the top of your list? And I'm going to say If You See Her by Anya Ahlborn. It's her newest release. I have yet to read an Anya Ahlborn book. I know. What's wrong with me? I have Within These Walls on my shelves. I just haven't read it yet. But Juliet, A Girl in the Book, loves her, gushes about her. She's actually how I discovered Anya Ahlborn in the first place, and she just did a book review of If You See Her and just had nothing but wonderful things to say. So I think that's probably the next one that maybe I want to read Within These Walls first, but after that, that's going to be definitely on the top of my wish list for horror books. And question 13 is to tag some people. And I know a lot of people have already done this tag, so I don't want to tag anyone specifically, but if you're watching this and you want to do this tag, consider yourself tagged. It's a really fun one to do, especially if you like the horror genre, obviously. If you don't like horror, you might not have fun doing this tag. But yeah, so feel free to do this tag if you have not. And yeah, I guess that's it. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this tag. Thanks again to Alex from Hey Little Thrifter for creating this tag, and to Sean at Eclectic Reads for tagging me. I hope you enjoyed, and I will talk to you very soon. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.